Hello and welcome to the debrief on your screens via WD18 and of course in your ears via From The Rookery End. My name is Mike and joining me to work through a wonderful Watford win at the Vic this afternoon is Jason. Jace, how are you? Look at that smile. Love it.
I'm smiling. I was full of trepidation going to the game today and just didn't envision what was to come. Fantastic stuff.
I don't think you're the only one going in slightly nervous, Jace. Also joining us, Charlie. How are you, mate?
I'm good, Michael. A lovely day spent at Vicarage Road. One of the great days, I'd say. So looking forward to talking about it today.
And for those of you watching on WD18, you'll be able to see that in celebration, Charlie has painted his walls a rather fetching salmon pink, which, I don't know, maybe tribute to Lavilliere, our goalkeeper, who leapt like a salmon to claim the ball a couple of times, or maybe not. And also joining us this evening, David Cameron Walker. DCW, how are you, mate?
I'm very good. I felt positive going into the game today.
Cool.
I was saying to anyone who would listen, I think I'm feeling all right today. I just got a feeling we're going to do it. And we did. Easy to crow after the event, and it could easily have gone the other way in some ways. But a very, very enjoyable day.
Yeah, hot on the heels of our predictions episode last week. Dave did predict not just the win, but the exact scoreline as well. So, sign up for Dave's Telegram channel where he'll be flogging his tips, which will no doubt be absolutely pony for the rest of the season. Chaps, I just wanted to start with, it was a really poignant and quite emotional start to the game, wasn't it? With the tribute to Kevin Keegan, of course, who died recently, and obviously huge links to Southampton. But to Kenny Jackett, and the centrepiece was obviously that massive, beautifully designed crowd surfer, which Roy Moore and Phil drove all the way to Poland to pick up. I think there was slight concerns that having designed it and raised the money for it, it wasn't going to be here in time. So they thought, bugger it, they're going to head off to Poland and pick it up. So fair play to those guys. Yeah. And it was spectacular. It looked absolutely superb, and it was a genuinely emotional moment. And what did they call it? It was One Club Kenny, I think, was the wording on it. And of course he played 428 times for Watford, making him 8th on the all-time list. Would have been significantly higher if it wasn't for that injury. Went on to have an amazing managerial career as well. He steered Millwall, Wolves and Swansea to promotions, also managed Portsmouth and Orient. And I think for me, when you hear the tributes, quite emotional and heartfelt tributes coming in from those supporters of those clubs, because we do see Kenny as ours, really, don't we? I think it's when you hear tributes coming in from other supporters, when you realise just what a respected and well-liked man Kenny Jackett was. And Jace, I want to come to you, because obviously it was GT that gave him his debut at the 79-80. He was only 18 when he made his debut for Watford. In a lot of ways, Kenny Jackett is the archetypal GT player, isn't he?
Yeah, and it's interesting. That was his debut season. It was also my debut season as a spectator, as a young whippersnapper. So I kind of grew up with Kenny's career at Watford. And he wasn't one of those players that would be top of your list when it comes to favourite players. We all loved Blissett and Barnes were the ones for me and my mates growing up, but he was one of those solid, steady, dependable, disciplined, typical GT player, like you alluded to that earlier, Mike, before recording as well. You could always rely on him, and he could fill a role in those days of one sub. A lot of players would need to fill a lot of roles throughout the game, and Kenny could do that. He could play down the left-hand side. He could play in the middle. One of those players would get the job done for you.
But that loyalty and determination is something that I remember. And the more you hear about Kenny and his upbringing, local lad, of course, which makes the story even better. And let's not forget, he played over 30 times for Wales as well. And Dave, he's just one of those players that I think, as a Watford fan, he sort of embodied everything that felt good about it when we were growing up.
Absolutely, and like the fact that he was on the coaching staff when we went up in '99, the fact that he had a season where he was actually the manager of the first team, and his relationship and his association with Watford was lifelong, really. And I watched some of the the really nice stuff that the club put out about him this week. They did a nice podcast speaking to a lot of former players and people that worked with him, Luther and Nigel Gibbs and Tommy Smith and Darren Ward and others. And the emotion was very clear to hear from people, like how much they loved him and cared about him, and how big a part he played in their lives, not just as a teammate but as a coach as well. But one thing that struck me watching the video in particular that the club put out was how many great goals he scored. In my mind, Kenny Jackett was like a defensive midfielder, all over the place, tackling and busy. He scored some absolute bangers, smashing him in from all angles, which was nice to see. And the one of the things that I think of when I hear the name Kenny Jackett, because I'm taken back to being in secondary school and in PE and playing football in PE. And John, who sits a couple of seats away from our John, from John Mooney, quite an old man now, but he's been supporting Watford for a long, long time. He was a PE teacher at Queen's in Bushey, and that's the school that Kenny Jackett went to. And on several occasions, if not every PE lesson, football lesson we ever had, at the end of it, John, Mr. Askew, would get us together and he would tell us about Kenny Jackett and the example that he set. And he was, the best boy at Queen's in, probably in the, mid-70s, I guess, when he was there. And he would use him as an example of like what you can do if you work hard and you really dedicate to your football and what you can achieve. And he was very proud. He must have taught him, on the way. Back then it was probably a bit more of a direct route from school into a professional club back then than it is now, probably. And he was clearly very proud to have taught Kenny Jackett. And he was, he would always remind us that Kenny Jackett came through Queen's School, and now, he went on to have a great career. And now, at that time, he would have been part of the Watford coaching staff. So, yeah, it was very sad to hear, of Kenny's passing. It sounded like it was quite quick and, very, very sad at the end. But a man who leaves a great legacy, as you say, not just at Watford, but at many clubs.
And just, I was lucky enough to meet him on a number of occasions. And Jace, you say he's might not be many people's favourite players. He was actually my favourite. He was my brother's favourite player, and he was one of the first players that we ever met. And it was at one of the open days at Vicarage Road. And my brother, he won't mind me recounting this story. He'll know what's coming. He got a bit flustered meeting Kenny Jackett, as he would as a wide-eyed youngster. And all he could think of was when he came face to face with Kenny, he looked up at him and he went, "I like you." and Kenny shook him by the hand and said, "You're not so bad yourself." And I just think that summed it up perfectly. And we went on to meet him a number of times since, and just a thoroughly great bloke. Watford in his heart, football in his heart, and a great loss to the football community and us as Watford supporters. And I think that tribute today was fitting and well done to the club and to everyone who worked so hard to make it happen. A fitting tribute to a genuine Watford legend. Charlie, I think Kenny Jackett, bearing in mind everything we've just spoken about, would have been pretty pleased with the performance. It was everything that Kenny stood for, I think, sort of hardworking, tenacious, a bit too tenacious perhaps from our old mate Hector, who was booked after about 5 minutes. But a great start with that goal from Ika Bravo. He had to show a bit of sort of tenacity to pounce on that ball and force it home, didn't he?
Absolutely. Before we talk about the game, I thought the atmosphere inside the Vic was fantastic. Right. I was surprised to see the attendance. I think it was 19,500 or so, which is great to see. And yeah, it just felt really good vibes inside the Vic. A shout out to Roy Moore as well. I know he made the long trip to get that kind of TIFO sorted. And how many times have we had a TIFO in recent years? I think in the Premier League years we've had quite a few, but to make an effort just shows the mark of the man that Kenny was. So that was great to see, and a great shout out to Roy Moore for that. But yeah, in terms of the game, in terms of how Watford started it, it was exactly what you'd want from a Watford team at the start of the season against a Southampton team. There was a nice bit of theatre there with the Spygate narrative, but I thought Watford matched the scenario excellently. We were obviously the underdogs going into the game. I thought our shape was excellent throughout the game, but I thought the way we applied ourselves in the first half, especially in terms of counter-attacking, really being smart with how we move the ball to get at them and create chances. And I honestly thought the whole second half, we'll talk about the goals, but like we could have been 3 or 4 up. I thought there were some really good chances, but Ika Bravo getting the first goal, I thought he had a lot to do when it kind of fell to him. He wasn't close to goal, and I thought he showed real composure. I've got a bit of a soft spot for him because I used to love Fernando Torres, especially when he was at Liverpool with that long hair, that hairband. I think Ika Bravo is a bit more of a Fernando Forestieri player, but when Ika Bravo kind of raced through, showed a bit of composure and slotted it past the Southampton keeper, I thought that was quite El Nino-esque or Fernando Torres-esque, and in front of the Rookery End, it was a glorious start to the game.
And he looked absolutely delighted as well, which is good to see. And just to mention the atmosphere, the noise, I was working in the Elton John stand today, so sort of right on the halfway line, so you get to hear everything. The noise when that goal went in was really, really good. We have liftoff, and you could just feel that sense of delight, really, that good start had paid off with that goal. You're absolutely right, Charlie. He did have a lot to do. It was a terrible mistake by the Southampton defender who effectively played it in, but he still had to bully his way into the penalty area and get his shot away, which he did. And about 15 minutes later, Jason, it was 2. Talking about lustrous hair and hairbands, I can't imagine why Charlie's obsessed with that sort of thing. But it was Amin Nabizada making his first league debut, making his first league start for Watford, who got that second. I was actually a bit grumpy at the start because I felt like he should be playing on the left and Marmer's better off on the right. But it quickly became apparent why Dionisi's Watford manager and I'm not, when Amin slalomed his way into the box and finished.
Yeah, for me, I guess it was one of 2 names that probably stood out on that team sheet, the other one being Doumbia, and we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. I was sort of 50-50. One, pleased to see him given a start. He probably hasn't had the opportunities or enough opportunities to make progress in games last season when perhaps we had the opportunities to blood a few youngsters and we didn't. You thought he could have had a few games. So half of me pleased for him. Another half was it's going to be a tough ask against what we were expecting to be a good Southampton side, and was hoping he didn't fluff his lines, and of course he didn't. The point you make about Mummer on the left, Nabizada on the right, I don't know. I wouldn't say I wouldn't care which way round they would go, but I just feel, particularly in that sort of 4-2-3-1 formation these days, you're asking, I think with those attacking players that are wide, you're asking them to either or do both of beat players on the outside and cutting on the inside. They should be capable of doing both these days and are going to be asked to do both these days. So for me, it's kind of, you can mix and match them as you see fit. So I wasn't really too fussed with seeing Mummer on the left. And then the goal, yeah, it was great. One, great anticipation to read the errant pass. Down Ryan Manning's side as well, and not the most popular opposition character at Vicarage Road either, so not too disappointed to see him suffer in that way. Anticipated the ball, carried it all the way. That touch right at the end was probably a bit heavier than he would have wanted.
Well, here we go. Let's have a quick vote on this. I think, looking back, that last touch was basically what allowed him to score, because it left him with no option what to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. It probably wasn't deliberate though, was it? You see him look up and then he takes the touch. Oh, Dave's not so sure.
Well, come on, let's go to the arbiter of if whether goals were meant or not, Dave.
I'm not sure. I mean, I saw Matty Pollock and him were interviewed on Sky after the game, and they talked. The guy, I think it was Patrick Davison, asked him about what were you thinking when it opened up for you when you decided to shoot rather than cross? And Pollock was like, "Oh, what a great cross that was." So I don't know, maybe, but it was deliberate. It wasn't. He could have.
The shot was deliberate. I think
he could have crossed that last touch, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he could still have crossed it from where he was. Like, he could still have squared it. But I love the confidence of thinking, you know what, I'm going to take it on. I'm going to have a shot. This is a young lad, first league start. It's great, and it was nice. It was a nice interview, actually. Seek it out. It's on the Sky Sports socials, and he was quite humble. And Pollock was like giving him a bit of like, "Come on, stop being so humble. Like, take the flowers when you're getting them and stuff." But He's a young lad, and he's made a good start to this season. It's a long season ahead of him, and we can't get carried away with him. But it was great to see him start after not starting last week. Maybe he was the beneficiary of Bar not being fit, perhaps, but he's come in and he's played really well in that first half, especially, and he's helped us win today. So that's great, and it's great. I think I don't want to get you don't need to get too much into this stuff, but I think it's great that all of those 19,000 odd people in Vicarage Road today are singing "He's one of our own" about a young lad who has represented Afghanistan, and he's here and he's one of ours, and I think that's great.
Yeah, it was a wonderful moment, and he's worked hard for it, hasn't he? His performances for the under-21s have been relentlessly good, and I think he's been waiting for this call-up. Jace, you make a good point that perhaps a little bit frustrating that he hasn't been called up before now, but I think there was at least 19,000 people who were pretty happy he was. Really, really great moment to follow on, and Watford were all of a sudden 2-0 up, and not sure if we're quite in dreamland, but pretty happy nonetheless. Obviously, we can't have it all our own way, Dave, and in between the two goals, Mark Bowler tried to replicate his goal of the season from Crawley, and there's a school of thought that he knackered his hamstring.
Maybe, I don't know.
Shooting. Either way, he ended up going off. I think it was, I'm just going to check my notes, it was 15 minutes or so?
15, 20, yeah.
That he went off, and what it did do, Dave, it did sort of bring back into sharp focus the situation with the defence, how limited we are with our options. What did you? I want to save Matty Pollock for the end, but it's still tough, isn't it? We've still got work to do in that area.
It's a huge problem, and it's fine for a one-off game, and even for a couple of games, you can get through. With before this game, we had 6 defenders named in the squad, just 6. Mm-hmm. One of whom, Jeremy Gakia, who wasn't fit to be involved today. So then you lose Bowler, you go down to 4, and there were the 4 on the pitch: Zamora, Pollock, Kebin, and Traore. And clearly, for a side that is going to be playing at the very least a 49 game season, if you include the FA Cup. Could be more.
And our run to the Carabao Cup semi-final, of course.
Yeah, exactly. But clearly that's, it's fine to, now we can maybe get away with it for a few games. We have to bring reinforcements in, because across the course of the season, that's obviously not going to be good enough. There's, people could get injured, suspended. Just the general trials and tribulations of a professional football season. You're going to need more bodies than that. So we need to act quickly. It's clear that they're obviously, there's been a lot of talk about them waiting for a Premier League loan like we had last season. Hopefully we'll get one, but there's going to be competition for those. We've seen Elaine go to Burnley. I'm sure there are going to be clubs in for Stephen Fooney, and there'll be whoever else we're going for. We're not going to have it all our own way. Maybe we'll get one, but maybe we won't get our first choice. I wouldn't be surprised. This is a bit of a tangent, but I would be surprised to see Abankwah come back. Like I think we're going to have to pad it out with people from Udinese, just because needs must, and financially that's the easiest way for us to do it. But look, it's great today. We've won. We've largely played pretty well. We played well in the first half. Second half, we weathered the storm. I said to the lads next to me, it was a bit like watching England Mexico in the second half at times. But we didn't have a centre back like Dan Burn that we could bring on. We didn't have anyone we could bring on defensively to help us see it out. But we're gonna need reinforcements. We have to before that transfer deadline. Because to lose a defender in the first game, and to lose someone like Mark Bowler, who he's been he's signed his new contract in the week, and he's playing well. But at the end of the game, I saw Jordan from Watford Buzz talking about this. Like, if you look at him, the way he was walking around the pitch at the end, it didn't look terrible. Like, it didn't look like he was in huge pain or strapping. Or, it wasn't like he was in, limping or crutches or anything terrible like that. So hopefully he's okay, and he'll be patched up and he'll be okay. But yeah, it's a problem. Yeah.
Charlie, my biggest concern when Mark Bowler went off was how we like to play in terms of how kind of inverted it's been, and it'd be good to get Jason's thoughts on this. And it's something that we've seen in pre-season, but in possession, he's been playing very central and kind of next to Cipriano, who I thought Cipriano had a superb game today. I especially enjoyed his housery towards the end, but he was very isolated when Mark Bowler went off, and it's a clear tactic from Dionisi that he wants Mark Bowler to be central. He obviously fancies him to be comfortable on the ball. We saw him score that goal against Crawley. I think he hit the crossbar in the game before. And then when he went off, I was just worried about our kind of style and play and what Dionisi's plan. And we did see Traore come in centrally maybe once or twice, but I think it was kind of when Mark Bowler went off, it was like, okay, let's go for a straight back four. And to be fair, they did well. One thing I was saying to the lads, I think if there was any area where I think we do have depth, it is in that left back spot with Jordan Zamora coming on, who I thought was good. But yeah, Jace, I don't know if you picked up on kind of Mark Bowler's position and what you thought.
Yeah,
about that.
there was definitely one point early on where we've got the ball in the centre back position, and he's received it. He's probably 5-10 yards ahead, and he was very central, like you say, very near to Cipriano. So I thought, okay, we'll see how that develops. I wasn't around for the cup tie last week, so this is sort of the first chance I've had a look at this under Dionisi. So yeah, that was something I thought, right, we'll see how that develops. Is that something he's going to do? And then, of course, not long after, he was off injured. So yeah, it looks like that was going to be the plan. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we move forward without him.
Jace, I wanted to ask you as well, while we're on defence, I thought Zamora came on and did pretty well. He wouldn't have been expecting to come on at that stage. It's always tough to get up to speed, but I think he looks like he's going to be a handy addition, doesn't he, for the squad? And I make Charlie right. I think that we've got good backup there, evidently, as we saw today. But Jace, I wanted to talk about Kevin Caben, much maligned, really, and I was talking about him with Adam Drury before the game, and he looked great. And then was it the Norwich game where he got hooked at half time?
Really bad one. Yeah,
he had an absolute stinker, didn't he? And he hasn't. He's looked like he's been shell shocked ever since, really, and he hasn't been able to find that confidence that we're going to need him to have. Well, how did you think he did today? And did he look closer to being back to the Caben that we thought was going to be a decent player for us?
Oh yeah, much better today. The defence as a whole, they were asked a lot of questions in that second half and points in the first half as well, and generally they dealt with it pretty well. I think the goal was their first shot on target, was it not? Which is always a good sign of good defending. There were times where he made those sort of wanders out of the centre back line with the ball, and generally they were successful. They were heart in mouth moments. So there were a few where he sort of turned again. You think, look, just get rid. But generally, yeah, got away, found the pass. But there were times as well when he did get rid, and I thought again that was generally an aspect of our play. There were times where Southampton were pressing and we were comfortable getting rid, which is absolutely fine. and a lot of the time finding Doumbia again. We'll talk about him later, but those decisions by the back line today, Kevin included, always seem to be good decisions. Getting rid when they needed to get rid, look comfortable on the ball when the press wasn't so apparent and they were just able to move the ball around quite comfortably. So going back to that original question, Kevin, definitely one of his best performance for a long time. It's probably helped the fact that the two centre-back thing, we know we've only got two centre-backs. We know who's going to be starting. He's probably been doing a lot of work in training with Pollock because they know that's what it's going to be. So that's probably helped a bit. Not through great circumstances, but yeah, they've got that partnership they've been developing over the summer because they've had to. And I thought, yeah, they just look really good as a pair today.
Yeah, I think he's fine, and we obviously need to strengthen more in that position. I do think, and this isn't a Kevin thing, but I do think there were times in the second half, particularly when we were under the cosh, where we understandably decided to go long rather than going short and playing out at that time. I get it, but we were giving the ball straight back to Southampton so often. Like we did struggle to have any sort of out ball, any sort of retention of possession in the second half.
Their goal came from us panicking. Their goal came from us panicking, didn't it? I think it was Kevin actually who probably went to ground a little bit earlier than he should, and it just felt like that Haysom Jason defence that we feared seeing, didn't it, for a couple of minutes there, and ultimately they got the goal from it. And so loads to learn defensively, but thanks to them we got in at half time. Charlie, I just wanted to speak to you about something. You mentioned Hector's Housery, which sounds like a good TV show. It felt to me that Southampton, after starting fairly well, or at least okay, they looked like they knew what they're doing, they sort of descended into trying to make it a sort of niggly, and they tried to be disruptive with sort of soft fouls and lots of complaining to the ref, which surprised me. I wonder whether Tom the Wrecker is getting them to lean into some sort of we're the bad guys.
Southampton, the dark arts surprised you?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, really, they're the most vanilla club out there, and I just wonder whether they're trying to lean into this.
Got a few notable figures in their past who are, I would say, something less than vanilla these days.
Yeah, okay, we'll leave that there for a range of reasons. But it came from nowhere that they just tried to sort of all of a sudden get a bit arsey, really, and I wondered whether it played into our hands a bit. I was watching it and was thinking, yeah, I think a switch went off in the Watford players, and I'm like, oh, right, it's like that, is it? Well, here we go then. And then ultimately, for the rest of the game, we kind of beat them up. I think we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bookings, 2 of which were very early on from the ref. But did you sense that, Charlie, that Southampton sort of switched to that style of play might have actually fired us up and played into our hands?
Yeah, I thought the game, there was a great bit of needle from the start. A good aggression from both players. Othman Mama was playing the part as well, and he had a bit of a kissing going on, I think, maybe in the second half. They had players like Flynn Downs, who was at it all game. But I've got to give a shout out to maybe 1 or 2 unsung heroes from today, and that's the Watford Ball Boys. There was a great moment in the second half on the Rookery End where Southampton had one of their, it felt like 50 corners towards the end when they were just peeling them in, and the ball went to one of our ball boys, Manning, asked for the ball, and the ball boy was just having none of it. And it gave the Rookery a real kind of G up and real sense of it. And then we saw it over towards the Elton John stand. So if Dionisi's getting the ball boys playing, he must be, I've told you he's the next Guardiola. No, I thought the game was played at a really good temperament, and I thought Watford played it quite well, because I feel like the last decade we've not been good at the arts, and we've spilled over at the wrong times, and players have been sent off when they should have been. But I thought today was played with really good aggression. I thought Kiprianu kind of led by that example. I thought he was kind of, in the way we play, he's quite isolated in that holding midfield role, so we had to get about. We've said about he got booked on the 6th minute, but he was quite shrewd for the rest of the game. But we put our foot in when we needed to. We got in amongst it, and I thought, especially in the second half when they were gathering momentum, I thought there was really good breaks in plays and free kicks, and maybe you can't give too much praise for Watford for that, but I thought it broke the game up, which was quite handy, because if they were on the ball, that was more handy than them kind of having set pieces, which I thought we were talking about earlier. I thought Pollock and Caben dealt with quite well. And another shout out for the new goalkeeper. He made some vital punches in the end, and he caught the ball twice.
Yeah, unheard of scenes. Jay's second half was, we probably knew what was coming after that first half. Watford did look a little bit tired towards the end of that first half, 5 minutes of added time, and by the time they trudged off, it did feel like they needed that break. And whilst, I don't know, it didn't really feel like Southampton created a huge amount, but the momentum was very much with them. I think it was about 10 minutes after the restart that they scored Carl Larin. And I think we were sort of martyrs of our own downfall, as I mentioned there. I think that was a bit, I don't know, I think we panicked a little bit. But then after that, I think Dionisi sort of played his hand, didn't he, Jace, to try and staunch the flow a little bit with that treble substitution on the hour. Kayembe for Bove, Adupoku for Nabizada, and Piero for Bravo. How did you feel at the time, and how did you feel those subs panned out?
Yeah, at the time, I think it was clear fresh legs were needed. Like you say, I mentioned it on the WhatsApp group at half time that it was obvious we'd played with such intensity in that first half. The spaces that we were closing down, the hard work that we were doing off the ball. Could we keep that up? And the answer was no. We did start to look tired. As you said, they got the goal back. They nearly got another one straight after. Good save from Revelia. I think it was another Larin chance, wasn't it? Not long after the first goal. And the changes were needed. Kayembe coming on, I thought, yeah, that seems like the right change. Is it Pajero? We pronounce it Pajero.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Yes, Pajero coming on. Okay, don't really know a great deal about him. Interested to see what he could do.
Enjoyed him coming on and kicking everyone.
Yeah,
just gets booked, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's it. Adupoku coming on. I thought, okay, that's a strange one. Presumably protecting Vata. Obviously, feeling that don't want to bring him straight in with so much time left. Perhaps he'll get some minutes at the end, which obviously eventually he did. How did they pan out? Start with Kayembe. Okay, maybe at times made the wrong decision, made some good breaks. I thought
Kayembe doing Kayembe things, wasn't it?
Doing Kayembe things. Carried the ball out a couple of times, good carries, but then maybe wrong decision. Had a shot when maybe a pass was on or ran into trouble. Thought he was playing maybe 5 yards too forward. If we were trying to sit back and defend, I just thought at times he was just allowing too much space in between him and the defenders. We obviously Cipriano played the full 90, didn't he? And with him being on a yellow, thought perhaps he needed Kayembe back alongside him a bit more and just sort of helping him out, rather than leaving him sort of having to chase around in that space. So could have done with him sitting back a bit more, I think. The other two, Adupoku just didn't quite look ready for it at this level, unfortunately.
I saw him a few times for Wealdstone in the National League last year, and to be honest, he struggled to make an impact at that level. And I think you're right, Jason. I think the only reason that he would have come on ahead of Vata was to protect him and to give him a go. I think the game was quite frenzied at the time when he came on. There was lots was happening. Basically Southampton had the upper hand and had all the momentum. And I remember him sort of complaining to the ref after getting basically shoved off the ball. It wasn't a massive one, a little nudge, and I thought you've got to get up to speed pretty quickly. It was tough for him, Dave, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, we don't need to dig him out. He's a young lad.
No, yeah, for sure.
Playing in the Championship, he's come on. But he had like literally one opportunity to get on the ball in space and go forward, and he, didn't produce a good cross. And then the rest of it, he was trying to defend and looked a bit uncertain, and just didn't look very comfortable out there, which can be expected from a young player in that situation. So, hopefully he can learn from it, and if we have to call upon him again, hopefully he can be better. But I think it was a sign really of our general situation that he's on the bench, Eames and Claridge are on the bench as well. Like, we haven't got a lot of depth at the moment, we know that. I mean, if we bring in more players, I don't expect those lads to be involved that much this season. But what I liked about today was the spirit. I felt good vibes at the stadium today, and that's helped by two goals in the first half, which partly come from Southampton's inefficiencies as much as our good execution when presented with those chances. So we shouldn't get carried away, but I just liked the fact that at the end of the game, Dionisi's striding onto the pitch and he's hugging Nabizada and giving him a big old kiss on the cheek. All the young lads seem to be together and jumping up and down at the end, and Doumbia has been pictured wearing a supporter's hat, which is lovely to see, like sort of Watford bucket hat. So there's some nice stuff.
It was a straw photo, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's for sure.
There's some good stuff there today. We had a nice time. It's good to be. Obviously we had the game last week, but everyone was there today, full house, and it's gonna be a long season. But I feel like today was perhaps a sign of what we might be this season, and that's a team that if we have as many of our players on the pitch, our good players on the pitch as possible, and if we have that energy about us, we've got just about enough quality to cause some teams problems and to take advantage of moments like that. But we're a bit thin, and really, if we're honest, Southampton should have got something today in terms of the chances that they had. They should have equalised in the second half, and better teams than, or teams as good as Southampton with the quality that they have will probably, get points off us throughout the season. But
hold on to that thought, because I want to loop back to that and touch on the just sort of general feel good. And I think feel good's a bit of a wishy-washy phrase, but it's going to make or break our season, isn't it? Whether this team can get together and really get their shoulder to the wheel, and in turn get us behind them as supporters. Because I think Matty Pollock referenced it in that interview that you mentioned, Dave. He explicitly talked about how bad the end of last season was, and he recognises that fans are going to need to be on side. It is going to be difficult. So we'll touch on that again. I just wanted to single out two more players that we haven't mentioned yet. I think Vata came on. He was the final substitute. I think he did a really, really good job. Just energetic, caused enough mayhem.
Had a shot, I think, within about a minute of coming on, he's had a shot from 30 yards. Like we said last week, he's the guy that's going to score one from 30 yards if it happens this season. Yeah,
him and Nabizard are cut from the same cloth, I think, in terms of just wanting to make something happen. They're exciting players, always looking to get forward. And he is a great sub to have to come on. And I think if you're going to have to take Othmane Marma off, he'd had his red mist moment, almost completely lost it. I think it was sensible to remove him and bring Vata on. You mentioned Southampton should have equalised. Harwood Bellis should have scored right at the death, which would have been a killer.
Chance. I was hiding behind my chair at that point.
Yeah, right. You didn't see Harwood Bellis popping up with his infamous binoculars. Someone else who didn't score, but had, from a Watford point of view, an infinitely better game, Charlie, was Mamadou Doumbia. I think he went from start to finish. He worked really hard. Luca doesn't go missing as well, in fairness, but I think you could see why Dionisi picked Doumbia over Luca Kirangal today.
Yeah, interesting, because Kirangal has played every game of pre-season, I believe. So to change that for the first game of the season is a big call from Dionisi. Doumbia, I think the one thing he's got over Kirangal is his mobility. I think he gets about the whole way of the pitch. I think he gets his toe in front of defenders. He's a bit more of a nuisance, but especially in that second half, it's just a struggle, isn't it? And that's our biggest weakness in terms of when we're struggling, we can't build up, and we're just trying to pitch it up and asking for someone to hold on to it. And I don't think Doumbia's got that ability. We haven't spoken about it since the last episode we've done. Maybe we can talk about someone who is on trial with us, Mikel Antonio. But I think you're right, Mike, when you say Doumbia, his application was spot on, did not stop running. He played the full 90, I believe. And to be fair, whenever he's played for us, I think he's been great. But we looked at our starting lineup at the start of the game, and across the attack, it was like 20-year-old, 21-year-old, 19, or Ika Bravo 20. So we're going into these fights, and when you're going up against Southampton, who have got Flynn Downs, Manning, these proper championship
Harwood Bellis, England player.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Getting a win today is massive. We might think it's the first game, but they're going to switch on. We got them on an off day, so happy for Doumbia's performance. I thought he was good. It's such a big problem for us, and I think as the season goes on, I mean, I'll open it up to you, Mike. Now, like our WhatsApp chat, there was a lot of talk about Mikel Antonio. Adam Drury report has been training with us. The club are deliberating. I think me and Dave have different opinions about him as a player, what he could bring to us. But
that's because Dave's trying to.
Mikel Antonio, are you having him? Should we put some money down for him?
Dave's off him signing for Watford because he's trying to sign him for Ribblesdale. That's what I think. That's what's going on there.
No, look, we've got a big ban up front for Ribblesdale. Don't worry. Spike Whitney, top goal scorer, absolute unit. Thank you very much. We're okay.
All right. Well, maybe we should sign Spike, and you can have Mikel Antonio.
But I think with Antonio though, like the worry for me, obviously got quality, obviously got pedigree, obviously got experience. And he's 36 now. He's done it at the top level, and perhaps he would have something to offer in terms of his quality, his experience, and all that. But the fact that no one else has signed him, and he's been looking for a club for a while. Had a short spell in Qatar. He had that car accident a little while ago, which was clearly a big challenge for him to come back from, and great that he has come back from it. But it's not the Mikel Antonio of 2-3 years ago, let alone 5+ years ago. So, but that said, is he worse than Doumbia or Kurumgard?
Well, look, let's flip it on it. Let's flip it on its head. I think he might be a good supplement to those guys. But as Charlie just said, we've got youngsters everywhere. Someone who's not only been around football for a long time, but also has, as you rightly say, Dave, faced adversity in terms of that car crash. And he posted quite an inspirational video actually about his comeback, not just to be playing football, but to walk again. And I think in the sporting arena, sometimes stuff like that can help, and there's a bit of context it provides to these footballers who sometimes potentially might have it a little bit easy and might sort of forget how difficult life is out there, and potentially that can bleed into how they play. So just to mark your card, we will be back on Wednesday with we're going to catch up with Adam Drury. Hopefully there'll have been some signings by then, but if Mikel Antonio hasn't signed by then, we'll have an update from Adam Drury, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. But I think as a supplementary, complementary striker, I think he's someone who's been there and done it. I think if you can bring him on for 10, 15 minutes, but for example today, can he get the ball to stick up to him? Is he going to be a different prospect to Doumbia?
Hopefully.
Then there's no downside really for me. As you say, Dave, he hasn't gone anywhere else, which means it sounds, and if he does sign for us, we know that the money's going to be right. It doesn't seem to be a massive downside. Strikers are hard to find, so why not get one that's been around the block and is also hopefully going to bring on these young players that we've got, and give them a bit of encouragement and just to bring them on a little bit. And so just to finish off on today's protagonists, Jason, I wanted to come to you talking about Mikel Antonio, hopefully showing himself to be a bit of a leader and potentially joining that leadership group if he signs. Matty Pollock, club captain, every inch, the sort of, at least we know what Matty Pollock's failings are or shortcomings are as a central defender. We know exactly what we're getting with Matty, but as a supporter, there's nothing wrong with that. He's easy to get behind, and I think he showed off and on the pitch today why he's a great captain for us.
Yeah, I mean he's probably been captain in the making for quite a while now, hasn't he? The noises, the things he was saying last year, you could see he's the sort of player fans would want as a captain. The man he's replaced, I think we'll talk about him later. Perhaps jury's been out in terms of his commitment to the cause in recent times. So to have someone who you can't say he bleeds yellow. I don't think he's quite there yet. But for someone, he's been around and
he bleeds gravy. We all know that
he does. When you listen to him talk, he definitely bleeds gravy. Or maybe it's I was going to say fish, but being a
bleed fish.
Can you bleed fish? No, we won't go there. We'll go back.
Out there, anything could happen.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But just he has that persona, that leader, and he's one of those. In my head, I'm rubbish at remembering players' ages, and I in my head he's still young, but he's played enough Championship football now that he is one of the more experienced heads. And today, I think I lost count of the number of times he got his head on the ball as Southampton were chucking it in there towards the end. It seemed to be him on the end of everything, and it was an amazing performance again from him today. Certainly, when we were up against it. First half, I thought there were a couple of times where he got Southampton's movement was sort of putting him around a bit, and he was sort of having to track players and sort of creating a few holes in the middle that had me a bit worried. Perhaps not so him, just the cover that was coming back. You probably needed Cipriani to drop in and help and cover when he was sort of being pulled about. But for me, I agree with the decision to make him man of the match. I thought it was two great individual goals that got us in front. It was Matty Pollock leading the defence that won us the game.
Yeah, He is our big Dan Burn, big Matty Pollock. He turns 25 next month, so he's coming into the the prime years. He's had a bit of a journey to get to this stage, and of course, his father was a professional footballer. Like he's been leading to this moment, and he is embracing it. I think he's really embracing the fact that he's captain. You can see when he talks, and he's been interviewed after the game, before the game, and he cares. He really cares about this club. I think he could probably have left and maybe agitated for a move or whatever. Could have gone another way for him, but no, he's there. He wants to fight. He knows that. I think he's very conscious of the fact that we are going to have a difficult season. Like I'm all about the good vibes today. I had a great day today. Like before the game, after the game. Love that it was the 1:30 game. 1:30 kickoff really helped today as well, by the way. Just enables you to get to the pub before the game without feeling too bad about it, because otherwise we would have to be there before midday, and that's never.
If you're listening, EFL administrators, please.
1:30, yeah. But good day today. I hope everyone had a good time today. I think everyone did. But let's not get away from it. I think we're going to have a tough season ahead for a lot of reasons potentially. But that tough season, I think, will be, if we weather it and if we do get through it, I think it will probably be because people like Matty Pollock are at the club and are leading us in the way that perhaps we haven't been led probably since Troy was captain.
Yeah. Jason, you mentioned it there. Matty has replaced Imran Louza as Watford captain. He was conspicuous by his absence today, not even in the squad. He was, of course, on the bench for the game against Crawley, but didn't get brought on. Charlie, Adam Drury of the Watford Observer, is reporting that a loan move looks like it is inching closer for Imran Louza, with the Middle East, possibly Qatar, his destination. I think that destination, for me, should be telling Imran Louza something. I think he was probably hoping for a better move. That move clearly hasn't materialised. There's evidently been limited interest in him over the summer. Just that sort of recycled Paris FC bid was the only real one that seemed to have any substance. He's been relegated a lot with Watford. There's been a bit of a shadow over his entire Watford career, really, and for him to be leaving to go to Qatar feels a little bit unsatisfactory, which I guess if I had to use a word to describe Imran's Watford career, it probably would be unsatisfactory. But Charlie, is ending this saga the most important thing, and getting him gone sounds a bit harsh, but if we can clear the decks of players who are potentially, they do have this sort of the sort of stink, if you like, of Watford's past failings still on them, getting rid of them, and whilst we might be worse off in terms of footballing talent, we're better off in terms of the teamwork and camaraderie that Dave spoke about earlier, that we're definitely going to need this year if we're not going to be staring down the barrel of League One.
Yeah, I think Imran Louza leaving the club is the best for all parties, but when you actually give it a bit of context about the deal there, I don't think it's great for us in terms of a loan deal to Qatar. It's like, so we're not going to get a fee, and I don't know if you guys saw when the club put out the squad numbers on Friday, was it? And if you look at our squad in detail there, the numbers that we've got, it's thin. And there's academy players in there and losers in there. And if we're not getting a sizable fee, which it doesn't look like we are, but whatever's happened, there's been a bit of miscommunication where we've heard a bit of
bust.
Luke Dowling talking a bit of, could he reintegrate? But he obviously it's clear that he doesn't want to be there. So,
I think Charlie, just to hop in there, I think potentially that's good from Dionisi. I think there could be from the hierarchy, you would want to be selling Louza for the exact reasons you mentioned, several million reasons, and I think there would definitely have been, whether it's perceived pressure or direct pressure, to get Imran Louza reintegrated with the group, because every time he's not playing, if he's not getting on the pitch for a championship football club, how can you ask 10, 12, 13, 14, whatever million? So I think there might have been pressure to get him back in the group, and Dionisi's just not had it, and potentially Louza's gone, well, all right then, I want out, and they've ended up having to sort of to go down this route, which is potentially the only one left open to them. So does Dionisi potentially come out with a bit of credit from all this?
Maybe. I wasn't at the at our place event on Tuesday, but obviously I've read a lot of the reports from people that were there, and it feels like Dionisi's coming across quite well at the moment. I think
because we've got Dionisi.
Yeah.
We've got
seems like a decent operator. Seems like contrasting to this time last year when we had Petzolano, which obviously didn't go well and wasn't all his fault, but I just feel a little bit more confident in Dionisi. Feels a little bit more sure of himself. Seems to be making quite an effort to get his English up to speed, and as much as any head coach can, he seems like he's prepared to try and assert his authority at Watford. What did you think, Jace, of what do you think of him so far, just from what you've seen in terms of how he's getting us playing?
Yeah, again, early days. Like I said, it wasn't here last week, but I alluded to it before. Around we do mix it up a bit in terms of we can play the ball around when we want to. We can go a bit longer, quicker when we want to. People can carry the ball when they want
Seems
to.
a bit more flexible.
It's we're not as predictable without being too random, if that makes sense. It's not just sort of, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to do this. There does seem to be some method to it, but capable equally of playing the ball around, but going long when we need to go long. Like I say, it's the one game for me, so it'll be interesting to see how we play against other teams. Particularly, the 2 goals today have come when we've counter-attacked Southampton. Yeah. So if we're up against weaker sides,
if we've lost that game on XG today. Well, if you care about that, mate, some people do, some people don't.
Don't worry about XG today.
Yeah, don't care. We won the game 3 points. Up against teams that might sit back and defend. How are we going to cope and how are we going to play against those teams? That's now what I'm sort of interested in seeing.
Yeah.
Be fair though, I don't think, looking at Watford, the situation we're in, maybe a couple of years ago we would be coming up against loads of low blocks, but I think we're the underdogs this season. I think there's going to be a lot more teams going to be wanting to play against us. So I'm quite comfortable in being Watford the underdog again. I think we're a lot better. We saw how well we played in the Premier League like that. So
always suits us.
We played a blinder today in terms of the counter attack. So bring it on.
And bring on Wrexham next week. Bring him on.
I think it suits us as supporters as well. I think if we can see what we're trying to do, which is outperform better opposition, and doing it with sort of vim and vigour and guts, it's easy to get behind, isn't it, as supporters? We saw that today. Huge noise inside the Vic greeted the goals and the final whistle. It was great because we could see that something was happening. It was a great day, a better start to the season we probably couldn't have asked for. On to North Wales next, the long journey to Wrexham, a huge test for Dionisi and his men. We'll be back midweek, as mentioned, with our warm-up show on Wednesday, by which time the loser story might be concluded and we might have signed Mikel Antonio. Whatever's happened, we'll bring you up to speed. We'll have Adam Drury with us then. But that's it for this show. David, thank you so much for... David, that's the first time I've ever called you David. I think it's in the week of your wedding, so I'm feeling quite formal.
Okay, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is the week of my wedding. I'm getting married on Friday. I think a few people attending are coming on Friday and then hot-footing it over to North Wales Saturday morning to get there in time for the game. Don't think I could get away with that myself personally. The morning after, but I hope we continue from what we've seen today with the same sort of spirit, same sort of fight. And if we can get a few moments and take advantage of them, and we can get 3 points on the road, it'd be great. If we get a point on the road, it'd be great. And I think, again, just to keep ourselves level, let's enjoy today. Let's really enjoy it. And it's great being back at the Vic, sunny day on a Sunday. We've got 3 points. Brilliant. Those 3 points might come in very handy come the end of the season. And if we can get something, I think it's about getting as much as we can from as many games as we can this season. I do think that as much as I would love to be looking at 8th place and above, if we can get to 52 points or whatever it might be as soon as we can, then all the better for it. And we're 3 points on the road to that today, and we're 7 points ahead of Southampton, which is nice, isn't it?
Tremendous, yeah. So do let us know if you're doing it, if you or have ever done a Wedding Wrexham double. Yeah, a good one, that. Jace, thank you very, very much for joining us. Your first appearance of the season. Good to be back.
Oh, absolutely. Obviously, a win makes it a lot nicer. Like I say, the day started with trepidation, but finishing with joy.
Absolutely. And Charlie, what a day.
A pleasure. Beautiful sunshine at Vicarage Road. Great to see some faces and to see Watford win. Glorious.
Thank you, guys, and thank you, everybody, for continuing to listen and watch. It's a pleasure to have you along with us. We'll be back midweek and then after Wrexham. Come on, you ones!